call the December 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee to order. Note that we have a quorum and member Eric Eby is participating remotely. First item, we have several sets of minutes.
I'll make a motion to take them all together, June 3rd, July 1st, September 2nd, and October 7th. Before I do that, I just want to introduce Jen Crockett from the Planning Department. She's taking minutes for this meeting. And those all look good to me, so I'm recommending approval. I have a second.
Second. Any discussion or changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Been approved. We have two items of old business. 58 Humphreys Court, they're seeking variances before they come back. They'll need to get the variances if they want to come back. And then 150 Portsmouth Boulevard, they are both postponing. So we'll move on to new business. Item A, request of Rye Port Properties LLC owner for property located at 2299 Lafayette Road, requesting site plan review approval for the demolition of the existing structure and construction of a car wash facility with associated site improvements. Property is located on Assessor Map 272 Lot 4 and lies within the Gateway 1 corridor. Is anyone here representing this project? Yes. Just come on up, introduce yourself. I know
Page is, yes.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
There we go. Jason, do you want to go ahead and introduce the project?
Yeah, I was just waiting until you were set up. I didn't want to.
No, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jason Rice. I'm with Hang Ten Car Wash. We are proposing to come in and build our express wash on this property. Our express wash is like, you pull up, go through a pay station. We have a pretty big membership model. You stay in your car, pull around. We have state-of-the-art car wash, so we have the conveyor belt that pulls your car through rather than the old school pull into the two metal tracks and have the wheels push your car. It's more of like a people mover. Two mats are about this big that grab your front tires, put it in neutral, and it pulls you through, which is nice because you can kind of take through a lot of different width cars, plus you don't have to worry about your rims. Our equipment is all state-of-the-art. We use the most economical from water usage that we can use, as well as providing as good of a wash to our clients as we can. When you exit the wash, you can continue straight and make a left to go back out of the property, or you can make a right and turn into our vacuum lot, where when you are a patron, whether it's a single wash or a membership, you can utilize our vacuums. We also have 2 rooms with mat washers that are available. And then for our memberships, if you are we have a little kahuna, we're a surf feel, so we have a little kahuna and a big kahuna. If you are the big kahuna, which is our highest membership, we only have 2 levels. We have 2 dog washes on our connected to our building, and so 2 different rooms. Or if you're a big kahuna, you can go in and use that dog wash, and it's got a dog wash unit in it that you can get your dog up in, and then it's got all the water and the soap and the flea and then a dryer. You also get the use of microfiber towels when you're a big kahuna, and then the use of any of our other washes. So that's a little bit about the wash and the site. I'm happy to answer any questions or obviously jump into the meeting with y'all. Thank you, by the way, for
Okay, thank you.
being here today on this wonderful weather day.
So the dogs go on a conveyor belt too, and they just.
Yeah. No, you will have to get a little dirty doing the dog, but there is like they're pretty nice, but they've got a shield, and so the dog sits behind it and a sprayer, and so it doesn't get all over you, but.
Paige, do you want to talk about the site and then go through the comments that were sent out?
Yes, so I'm Paige Widener with CESO. I'm the engineer for this project. Let me know at any time if audio is not coming through. But the site is sharing a driveway on Lafayette with the Taco Bell. So as you enter in the site, the customers will go plan south past the dumpster through the pay station. So at that point, as Jason explained, the membership model, then they'll continue plan south and then take a left into the fully enclosed car wash. So going north, and then as Jason said, after they've gone through the building, they've got the option to take a right into the vacuum area and park there and get out of their vehicle and wash their dog or whatever, or they can go ahead and proceed plan north and then take a left and exit the site. So that's kind of how it navigates. We did go ahead of the BOA last month and were approved for 3 different variances. One for the location of the dumpster, one for the location of the non-vacuum parking, if you can see on the north side of the site. Yeah, those I want to say 6 spaces, so those were approved to be allowed to be between the building and the frontage, as well as the location of the building setback up from Lafayette within the Gateway District. So we did receive approval for all 3 of those variances. And then as far as the layout of the site in proximity to the 100-year wetland setback, we did, between the set that's shown on the screen right now and a set that I did send Peter this morning, we have made some minor updates where we shifted the site to the east to remove the building out of the 100-year wetland setback based on some comments that were provided at the BOA meeting. So that's probably more pertinent for the Conservation Commission, but I did want to mention it to you all that change had been made. And we're going in front of the Conservation Commission next week on the 10th. So are there any questions as far as the site before I get into the staff comments and how we're responding?
So if you're moving the building, is the whole site moved?
The whole site has, yes, the whole site. So the layout and everything that you see here is remaining unchanged. We're just going to provide more vegetated area on the, if you're looking at it, the left side than the right side, just to get the building out of that 100-year wetland setback.
So the 100-foot wetland setback is in the back of the lot.
Yeah,
You get the comment.
he's following with the cursor right there. Yes,
Yes.
that dash line.
Did you guys look at all at moving it closer to Lafayette?
So that was I can discuss that as part of the addressing the comments. But we'll go ahead and move right into those. So the reason that we have the site laid out as it is with the vegetated area towards Lafayette is because of the connection to that shared driveway. We wanted to maintain how it functions as the current developed site, as well as line up the driveway with the Taco Bell and provide space for 2 vehicles to queue as they're turning onto Lafayette. So that was as well as we did a truck turn for the fire truck to make sure that it could navigate. That was the reasoning behind why the site's laid out as it is, north to south. But we would be open to feedback on that.
Well,
And Jason has the exhibit in front of him. I believe I sent a digital copy when we received the comments yesterday of that truck turn and those queued cars, but basically it just shows 2 parked cars and a fire truck able to circulate.
I think you already got the variance for the setback from the, beyond the maximum, but, if you got it back closer to the road, you'd have less impact in the wetland buffer, the 100-foot wetland buffer.
Can you explain to me why there's so many vacuum stalls? It just seems like it's a crazy number. And
Yeah.
maybe the whole site could be shifted to the right if that whole right side bay wasn't there.
Yeah, so,
They shift the entire thing out of the buffer.
so
We're close to it.
what we've seen with our other sites that are open, we have a site in Somerville, South Carolina currently that has one row of vacuums, and we just bought the property next door to add another row of vacuums.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, people go through the wash, you can get your car through the wash after you go through the pay station, in about 3.5 to 4 minutes going through the wash itself. But when people are vacuuming their car, they're throwing out their trash and they're doing their mats and their everything else. And so we run out of vacuums on our site in Somerville currently. And so what happens is people get frustrated and, because there's no vacuums for them to use because they're all taken up. And so busy points in the day, we need both rows of vacuums to be able to allow our patrons to get in and vacuum their cars, just because people will stay there for 15 or 20 minutes cleaning their car out. Not to mention if they are doing a dog wash or their mat washer, if they're doing their mats, it takes even longer. And so you just end up stacking up in the vacuum. And so that's why we show two. And on our other sites where we've got 2 rows of vacuums, it seems to work well with our operations.
Any other questions or comments before I move to the next staff comment? No? Okay. Yeah, so the next one was the purpose, asking the purpose of the 40-foot front setback line. That will be fixed based on the Gateway District and the results of the variance. So we'll remove that setback line. As to the fixing the site data summary table to reflect the current required setbacks and the noting of the granted variances on the site plan, we will have no problem doing both of those items. Comment number 5 was to provide a green building statement. We will be able to do that, but just to talk through it with this group, the car wash building, typical building, does provide quite a few environmental benefits, or components, I should say. One of those being the reclaimed tanks that Jason mentioned as he introduced the site, that do cycle through all of the soapy water used in the car wash through I want to say there's three underground tanks, Jason?
Yeah, there's three 2,000-gallon tanks that essentially we reclaim about 60% of our water so that we can reuse it multiple times before it won't sud essentially anymore, and then it will go out into an oil and water separator and then out into the sanitary sewer. But it allows us to, again, just reclaim as much as we possibly can by cleaning our filters, and then obviously those tanks will get pumped out periodically just from larger sediment that will get built up. So, but yeah, there's 3 2,000-gallon tanks buried.
So how does that water leave the site? Does it get dosed with a pump or does it flow out gravity?
So it flows out gravity. So we'll have like typical sanitary sewer that will flow out from our bathroom, and our in our tunnel. We have at the end of the tunnel, we've got a trench drain that grabs the little bit of tire dressing that could go off. That'll go right into the oil and water separator, not into our reclaim system. The dog washes will go right into the oil and water separator. And then everything else from the wash goes all into that reclaim system. And there are pumps in that reclaim system to obviously pump it in between the tanks and back into the wash, and then it goes through and comes back out. And then when it finally gets to the point where it needs to exit, where it will exit exit gravity out into the oil and water and then out to the street.
And then in the addition to the reclaimed tanks, and just new efficiency windows and LED lights, things of that nature, the building does also have automatically closing garage doors for, especially the winter time, to keep it warm in there. And we have an on-site stormwater water quality treatment filtration device that is proposed. So those would be the considered green building statement elements. Is there anything else specifically that we should include or evaluate in that statement to satisfy your requirement?
No, they're not very specific, so just
Okay.
all the components of the project that you consider green, that we just want
Okay.
to list that.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on then to comment number 6 about the water service must entering the main building, then branch off for irrigation. City will not allow separate structure for just water meter and backflow. So we will go ahead and relocate the water meter inside the building and the backflow preventer. Do you want the irrigation meter in the building as well?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and make that change. And then the next element, or the next comment was the trench drain at the entrance to the car wash cannot connect to the drainage system and stormwater detention pond, connect to the sewer, or have as an evaporation drain. So I want to be clear that on the south side of the car wash, there is shown a trench drain. That is not taking on any of the soapy water from inside the building. That is only taking the storm runoff that's running because it ramps down into the building, so it's collecting the last bit of rainwater before it can just enter into the building. So it's purely, it is a storm drain, and it's not taking on any of the environmentally concerning elements that would then be processed through the reclaim system and sent to the sanitary. Is that something that still needs to be reevaluated, or can that go ahead and connect to the storm system?
Yeah, the way we typically do our sites is we've got a slight slope for approximately 20 feet going into our tunnel. Mainly so as people are pulling in, one, they're kind of looking down a little bit rather than up, so it helps them to guide their car in, even though we're trying to point them in the right direction and turn their wheels, line up. The other reason is with our belt system, as soon as their front tires get on that belt, they're put in neutral, and then that belt pulls them through. And so with that little bit of down coming into the entrance, it then helps that car onto the belt easier. Same thing we have for about 20 feet exiting the building, we have a down grade so that their car will roll away from the car wash. Obviously that one, all the rainwater is rolling away from the car wash, but at the entrance, the rainwater would roll down and come into the car wash, which would then go down into the system and into the storm sewer system, or not the storm sewer, the sanitary sewer. And so we typically add a drain across the front just to grab storm water so it's not rolling into the car wash. Just to add on to what Paige said.
See, the grade leading in was not very clear.
No, there's a lot of grades missing on this plan that,
Okay, we can definitely go in and provide some more spot elevations,
yeah, that'd be great.
help clear that up.
I think it's just 2%, right, Paige?
Off memory, yes.
2% in, 2% out of the
Yeah,
tunnel.
there's just, the spot grades missing on the
Yep.
plan.
Absolutely, we'll go through and add a bunch more to provide clarity.
And then, did you ask about the detention pond? Is there no outlet?
Not on this one. The updated one she sent Peter and I this morning had the armored
Yes,
outlet there, but I do believe that is still undersized.
yes, so we'll continue to work, and I apologize, I can't see anyone's name tag, but with Zachary to make sure that that's sized appropriately, and we're gonna do all we can to get that properly sized before the Conservation Commission meeting, because I do understand that will have some implications on how much we're impacting the 100-foot setback. But yes, we are showing some riprap, and we will continue to work on the sizing.
comments from TAC members at this time?
I've got a couple, Peter.
Go ahead, Eric.
I think you got some comments already from DOT on the curb cut permit application, the driveway.
We do, yes.
Okay, and just do those. And
Yep.
the other ones I had, up at the top there on the plan north where you have the striping to guide vehicles in and out,
Mm-hmm.
is that just striping or will there be any type of physical curbing or something to guide them?
Yes.
'Cause I'm just thinking it would be, it's a free for all if you don't really physically guide them.
Yes, so there is a stop sign, a removable stop sign, coded note 24, in the kind of island of striping, if you can see.
Yeah.
So that is there to help direct traffic and slow people down to evaluate where they need to go. But it's removable so that a larger fire trucks, for instance, could move it out of the way easily to navigate the site. We have other sites that the striping and the low speed that they're exiting the car wash provides customers ample amount of time to make a decision and follow the direction. So we haven't had issues in other sites. This has been enough.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that as soon as they come out of the tunnel, they're gonna see the exit, the driveway and just head straight to it diagonal. I don't think they'll come up and, follow the paint, especially if it gets worn off or covered over, so. I didn't know if there's some type of curbing you can use, that you can put in there, but is that gonna be a problem?
It would need to be a temporary or removable measure just for, like I said, the fire truck accessibility.
Yep.
But we could definitely work through with you what would be satisfactory. But I mean, we haven't had a problem in the past. In coded note 17, there is a another sign. Yeah, it's a stop go signage at 17 there, but yeah, I'm not concerned about customers navigating with the signage and striping provided, but if that's something that's of the city's concern, we can definitely add.
I would,
Yeah.
I would say too, and I don't know if you can see me, but about 99% of our customers go into the vacuums. We want to give them the option for the very, very few that don't. But typically they're going to make a right and go into the vacuums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I just think, so especially if at night or something, it would just something on the ground to help is a positive. You can do temporary curbing or reflector bits or something like that just to help them guide. I think would be an improvement. Something that wouldn't impede the fire trucks.
Yeah, we could look into.
Maybe the
Sorry.
breakaway little reflectors. Is that what he was mentioning? Like that we could break away.
Yeah, something like that that could be run over, flex posts or something possibly.
Mhm.
Something that would not be an impediment to emergency vehicle.
Yeah, I do want to note that the car wash is only open typically from 8 to 8,
Uh-huh.
but
Dark, yeah.
so I get November. You're right, but
Yes. What was the other one? Oh, the letters on the pavement where, the do not enter, the stops and things. I think they're shown in your specs as being 2 feet tall, but they really need to be at least 6 feet tall for drivers to be able to see them and read them.
okay.
I think same thing with the arrows that are shown on the plan here look correct, but then when you get into the details, they're only 2 feet,
We
2
can
to
make them
5 feet.
larger. That's fine.
So, yeah, if they can, be more MUTCD compliant, and
Okay.
they would be a lot more visible to the drivers on the site to see where to go.
Yep, we'd be happy to make that change.
Okay. That's all I've got.
How about the multi-use trail?
Yeah, providing an easement. Oh,
That
that's what that is. Oh, okay.
issue.
Mhm.
Yes.
What was it, 8 and 12? Yeah, it would be,
Expanded all the way to the driveway, and then the Taco Bell side needs to be expanded to the other side of the driveway.
yeah, it needs to be a continuous.
Yeah.
It should be 10 feet wide if possible, because, that's what when it's shared with bikes and peds, 10 feet is
Okay.
preferred width.
Okay, That shouldn't be a problem.
And do we already have an
And-
easement out there? I don't know, Dave, is it, there an easement, the 12-foot easement is usually provided by all these projects?
I
I don't know.
don't remember if we have one on this site or not. My instinct is we
There-
do, it was just never built, but now we're building it, so we need to confirm that the easement's in place.
So there is a 12-foot for future road widening easement.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the one.
Okay, so nothing needs to be changed. I'll just show the easement on the proposed plans.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, the other thing I was thinking that is probably gonna be necessary on the site is a fence with a screen, so that you're gonna have trash cans and stuff by the vacuums, we don't want that blowing into the wetland. So.
Okay.
We're gonna.
Yeah, that's
bring
fine.
a fence around all that whole vacuum area, so that it contains the trash and doesn't allow it to blow, that's a very windy site.
If you can see the retaining wall on the south side of the site, would a fence along that be adequate?
Can you point it out to me?
His cursor is following it right now.
Yeah, so, yeah, and then just keep going
Okay.
up and up and up, all the way to Lafayette Road,
Okay.
just about, yep,
Past the vacuums?
yep, past the vacuums, so that the
Okay.
wind is coming usually up from the south, it's blowing toward plan right, usually.
Okay. And then for the multi-use path, if we were to provide a ramp to go into the driveway, are we going to be required to? Is that fine if we stop it at that point? As we've provided access
You need
from
to
property line to property line.
cross the driveway, there needs to be ADA
Yeah.
rules on both sides of the driveway.
So that's the ADA ramp right now on Taco Bell side is kind of diagonal into.
It was diagonal because there was no walkway across the street to, across the driveway to go to. So now
Okay, so-
we decide to keep going,
Okay, so you want a straightened out
yes,
ramp to. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
yes.
Okay,
Truncated domes on both sides,
got it.
with the stop bar in the correct spot,
Okay,
the blocking.
Yep. sure.
Yep,
Just to clarify, because we're not leasing that property,
that's in the state's right away and in the easement, controlled by
so,
the state of New Hampshire, it'll be allowed.
okay. Just need to get okay from the landlord and Taco Bell while we do work in their
It's in the
drive.
easement,
You have to coordinate with them, but.
Okay.
Pat, go ahead.
So, the truck turning template is a concern. Right now, you have us doing a 3-point turn.
Sorry, what are you looking for?
The truck turning template,
Oh, yes.
right now
exhibit.
we're doing a 3-point turn to get out, and we're smashing through a few parked cars there.
Okay. We can,
Ideally, we would go around the building. And so the furthest gate from the building would have a Knox key switch.
okay,
So the problem we have with that is our lanes are typically 9.5, and we have a truss system with a 7'2" to stop height. Like that's the highest car that could go into our wash.
We don't want to go inside the building.
No, I know. I'm just saying on our pay lanes, so it helps stop any vehicles that are too tall before they go in and damage equipment. And so we actually have like the height
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
that. So we have.
Can you move that bar around the corner, so
Yeah.
it's just before they actually go in, rather than on the,
On the ramp.
right, rather than on the turn itself, rather than on the, I mean, they'd have to back out if they hit it, but at least that would allow for fire truck access.
Well, they've already paid at that point, though. They'd have to get a refund.
Yeah, wow. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, that's something you guys can work out, how you deal with that, but we just need to be able to get around the building. There's not enough room to do a turnaround, where you're showing. 11-8 will be tight, but we can get through that. And you can just do that outside lane, the Knox key switch, and then if there's a height test type of thing, barrier, it would have to be 9.
I don't know where we would put the height. I mean, I can't put it past the gates either. Because you would still be driving through it. Right?
If the,
I mean,
if the height thing is there so you don't hit the building when you go in the building, then as long as you have it before they go in the building, it would accomplish that. Right?
you mean like right before they enter the building?
Have to be like where the 22 or the
Yeah,
11 is.
somewhere in
it
here.
looks like.
Yeah, to the front of them, right? Unless you can come up with another way to get us access around the building.
How tall is your truck?
Is your intention to bring this to the Conservation Commission first, to see if there's gonna be modifications before we approve it, or
They're going to the
They're-
Conservation Commission next week.
they're heavily in the buffer zone, so
I know.
I suspect they're gonna have issues.
They're gonna ask for modifications.
Yes, so I'd rather take a last look at this after.
I would think it'd make sense to do that.
In our pre-development meeting talked about doing pervious pavement all up in that corner, is what she had suggested.
In the corner where the buffer
this
is,
area.
in the
Where the-
buffer.
yeah.
Yep,
It's just doing
Yeah.
pervious pavement, but she didn't really, I mean, and for anything else in the site, she didn't have comments, but that was the one that she
that's,
said,
yeah, that's required in the
pervious, yeah.
And we are showing that in the updated plan set that shows the riprap in the base. Would we be able to get an conditional approval, with the condition that the site did not change based on next week's, results? And if next week's results are drastic enough to make significant site changes, then we come back? Is that a possibility?
I suspect you're gonna be coming back anyway to address the fire department's concerns. And the stormwater and the grades. And the water meter.
I'm also trying to think about, we have our LPR cameras and how high those are mounted in that pay lane for our members. So I think the maximum height that they can be mounted is 9 feet.
Yeah, we need to get around the building. So however you
Yes.
put out to do it.
Jason, we could explore potentially a bypass lane, see if we can't squeeze something in there. But I'm not quite sure how that will work with, the pay lanes, so.
I know it's not for this, but did you see the comment that Kate sent about the the New Hampshire wetland scientist?
I did, and I've been working with Kate directly on getting her that information, so,
Okay, great,
yes, thank you for bringing it up, though.
Yep, just wanna make sure you're aware.
Yep.
All right, is there anyone here from the public like to comment on this? Or anyone on Zoom? All right, if not, we'll close the public comment portion and open up for further discussion, if there is any.
I'll just clarify a little bit on fire department access, just to save having to come back multiple times. We don't do removable bollards or anything that we have to get out and move. We're okay with mountable curbs, that sort of thing.
You are, okay.
I would also add the landscape plan looks good, but there's nothing shown other than lawn for the pond. Is that your intention, or is there, usually we be able to landscape that a little bit?
We can provide additional landscaping
Okay. That,
around the pond, or
around, it looks like you just have lawn and nothing on the banks. I guess, is it gonna be lawn the entire thing? If that's the case, that's.
yes, that was our intention.
Just be clear that that goes the whole way.
Okay.
It appears like it's just the top strip.
Okay.
And then it'll be, and you have a maintenance schedule for mowing it or however you're gonna maintain that.
Sure. Sure.
All right, Paige, do you have any other questions, or are you clear on everything?
No, I think that's been very clear. Thank you all for the comments and for explaining every one of them.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Postpone?
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So Mike,
Thanks, Eric. Motion passed to postpone to January meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Paige.
Item B, new business, the request of Colby Enterprise LLC owner for property located at 1980 Woodbury Avenue, requesting site plan review approval for the redevelopment of the site to include a 5,500 square foot convenience store with 6 fueling islands and associated site improvements. It is on Assessor Map 239, Lot 11, and lies within the Gateway Corridor G1 district.
Didn't we do this? The site?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Rice with TF Moran. I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, Colby Enterprises. With me today is Jay Hall from Colby Enterprises. And joining us online is Michael Gazdaco, also of Colby Enterprises. He's their Director of Construction and Maintenance for all of their stores. We're here for a redevelopment of the existing gas station that's at 1980 Woodbury Ave, which is at the intersection of Gosling Road and Woodbury Ave. It's tax map 239, lot 11. It's about 0.88 acres in size. It currently has an existing convenience store, which is about 1,800 square feet. And it has 8 fueling islands for a total of 16 total fueling pumps on site. And what we're proposing is to demolish everything that's on site and build a new gas station and convenience store. The convenience store is 5,500 square feet, and the pumps have been reduced down to 6 fueling islands for a total of 12 pumping stations. We came before TAC on a work session basis back in November of '24, received some preliminary comments, and then subsequently went through the ZBA process. That took a number of hearings. We made some revisions to the plans, the biggest of which I think we discussed at the last TAC meeting, which there used to be a drive-through component as part of the building that has been removed. And we received all the necessary relief from ZBA for the plan that's before you. We came back before TAC and on a work session basis in October of this year, and we received a couple minor comments. I think the biggest ones at that meeting was with working with Dave at DPW for the water work that Severino was doing out in the roadway, so we did coordinate all of that so that that doesn't have to be done when they get ready to move forward with this project. And there was a comment just to make sure to provide stormwater treatment, because there's no stormwater treatment currently on the site. So we did submit a full package and included a drainage analysis. We meet all the city requirements. We've reduced the peak rate of runoff to all discharge locations for all storm events. We have provided stormwater treatment. We have a storm scepter unit that handles the oil and gas component, and then it goes into a storm tech system just for detention, and then it goes through a jellyfish cartridge system before discharging to the municipal system. We received some minor comments yesterday from staff, which I'm happy to go through. One was to just provide a green building statement, which I've requested from the architect, and we'll supply that when we submit for the planning board. The comment number 2 was to move the water and sewer services out from under the canopy. A portion of our water line went under a corner of the canopy, so we'll make that revision. The third comment was to not route domestic sewer through the grease trap, which we'll make clear on the subsequent plan, but that is our intent, is to tie it in after the grease trap. And comment number 5 was at the lower right-hand corner near the existing entrance drive. There was previously an existing hydrant, but I think that's been removed as part of the work that Severino recently did. I think we had addressed all the other comments, from fire and such. Previously, we provided truck turning plans, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Stormwater detention, is there infiltrating at all, or is that just?
No, that's a line
Okay.
system, which is a requirement of DES.
Yes.
All right, just wanna make sure.
So you're asking a trick question.
Smart enough to be a trick question.
Nice. Can you adjust your existing features plan and move your note? And I didn't see a note to abandon the existing sewer lateral. Maybe it's
That's
there.
probably on the site prep plan, not the existing conditions plan. Do you want something specifically noted on existing conditions?
Hold on, I'm getting there. So this is ahead of the site. Still no note.
I'll make sure it's added on the site prep plan. I'm sorry, what was the comment, Dave? To remove that?
Abandon the existing sewer lateral in the road. You're moving it, as far as I can understand here, it's on a different plan, but. And then some of the notes that you had regarding that water service are no longer in the right spot because the water service has now been moved.
Okay.
So we have to take a look at your plan and just update it so it's correct, please. If that hydrant's gone, then remove it off the plan as well.
Where did the hydrant just get moved to?
I'm not sure. I just got the comment yesterday afternoon, so we'll take a look.
I think it's there, but, I haven't,
I'm sure it's there somewhere.
yes.
Maybe it got shifted further south.
We actually have, yeah, the hydrant over by
Peter, I'm not sure if the answer is the comments came from you or from Stephanie, if we should coordinate that comment. If it is in fact still there, we're obviously not gonna remove it from the plan, but.
obviously. I think it's, I'm pretty sure it's still there. You showing the 8-foot sidewalks all the way around the site?
That was one question we did want to discuss. Right now, the existing sidewalk on the east side of the plant along Woodbury has 8-foot sidewalks up until the northeast corner.
Yeah.
And then it's 5 feet from there, wrapping all the way around. 8 feet can be provided there. It's all in the city right away, but there's a lot of control boxes and signal equipment boxes in that location. So I don't know how you wanted to address that. We could provide an easement to allow an 8-foot sidewalk for the portions along Gosling Road at the north end of the page. But I don't know if you'll ever go, would you ever go from 5 to 8 to 5, or would you keep 5 going?
We would do 8 and wrap the sidewalks around the appropriate spots.
Okay. So we can
As
sort
long as you're not in the mast arm, which it looks like you might literally go around the mast arm. The traffic signal box you would go around. And then the rest of our boxes that are flush with the ground, so it shouldn't be an issue.
and like I mentioned, if you zoom in on the
Anything
corner.
that makes the accessible route easier because you're now incorporating the push buttons into the sidewalk.
That's fine, I just wanted to ask the question for clarification, so we'll show
8
the
feet?
applicable easement. I think you have an extra foot or two in the right of way, so it's probably only gonna amount to a 1 or 2 foot
Yeah, it
easement
looks
on
like
our
it's
property.
only tight on one corner. The rest of it, you might have enough room, but you might not. We'll see what it looks like.
But you just need us to show the easement. We're not proposing to redo the sidewalk right now, is that correct?
That is not correct.
On that, jump check.
It's not correct. You are correct. You are not showing it correctly.
So we need to show a proposed 8 foot
Yes,
going all the way around.
yes, with an easement.
I might send you a sketch tape just to get your okay on it before I,
Fine.
formally submit it.
All
Really
good.
just for that corner where the pull boxes are, because
Understand.
it's all in the right of way. It's not easements on our property, but just so you get it the way you want it, in case we have to, maybe it goes to 10 feet around.
It's
that
just
corner.
easier to do it once. Yes. So sketch it up and we'll take a look at it.
And I assume we're keeping that concrete all the way?
Yes.
Eric, do you have any comments? Or you? No? Any other comments from TAC members? I'll open the public comment portion. Anyone from the public or on Zoom wishing to make comment on this application? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. And back, more discussion. Or a motion. Do you need to?
I'll make a motion to move this on to the planning board with the exception that the final layout of the sidewalks needs to be approved by DPW.
Prior to
I'll
planning board.
second that.
Any further discussion?
We're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving on to new business item C. Request of PNF Trust of 2013 and 282 Middle Street LLC owners. Property located at 84 Pleasant Street and 266, 270, 278 State Street. Requesting site plan review approval that includes merging 4 lots and redevelopment of the site to include remodeling existing structures and new construction to mimic the former Times Building. A new structure at the corner of State and Pleasant Street. Proposal includes 17 dwelling units, retail, commercial, restaurant space on the ground floor, and 17 parking spaces, and a car storage system, associated site improvements. Property is located on Assessment Map 107, lots 77 through 80. It lies within the CV4 District, Historic District, and Downtown Overlay District. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the advisory committee, John Shangan from Haley Ward, representing the PNF Trust. Also with me today is Chris Mulligan, legal counsel, Michael Keane, project architect. This project is, as mentioned, consolidation of 4 parcels and redevelopment of the site. It goes in the Pleasant Street address, which is the eastmost property and the largest property shown on the plan on your screen. And then there are 3 smaller properties along State Street. The property was the site of a fire in 2017, destroying most of the structure except for the building that was on the southwesterly parcel, which has since been removed, so it's a clear site. Some of the building on the 84 Pleasant Street site will be removed, and then a new building will be constructed. We've gone through various approvals to get here, most notably the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which has approved some variances for the project, and the Historic District Commission, which has issued a certificate of approval. I don't know how much more you want me to present at this juncture, but you have a license plan shown there in your package. There's some cornices that were requested in the HCC process. They're up in the air above the sidewalk by a few stories, but they're gonna be in the city space, so there'll be a licensing process that will be gone through with the council for that
improvement in the city's right-of-way. The next sheet is just an recent orthophoto plan showing the site as it exists with the outline of the proposed building in green. There's an existing conditions plan, a demolition plan showing the removal of a portion of that building at 84 Pleasant, and then the site plan. And the site plan shows the new building. The proposal is to have access to parking at first floor level. The parking is accessed from Church Street and through a garage door. There's, in your package, some turning movements that have been submitted. There's a parking system that will allow for the 3 spaces shown here to contain 8 vehicles each. So 8 on the left, 8 on the right, and then 1 surface ADA spot will yield 17 parking spaces for the site development. The project has 17 units, so there'll be 1 space per unit. And based on the changes to parking requirements, 1 space per dwelling unit is the maximum with the 4-space DOD reduction. 13 spaces are required, 17 are provided, so we meet the ordinance requirements there. The plan lists the zoning variances, shows the footprints. First floor footprint has cutouts at street level, does have building above, so for example, the corner at State Street and Pleasant, you can walk under the building at the first floor level, and there are various alcoves and access ways to entrances. In the south corner of the structure is a carve-out at first and second floor levels for a proposed on-property transformer. That transformer, it will be servicing the grid, providing redundancy and also power to this building, but it will be a part of the infrastructure improvements for the conduit and electrical network coming from a transformer that was placed at 93 Pleasant Street. Down, conduit will be placed down this transformer, and then conduit will be placed down Church Street to the northeast and then across State Street to a location that is shown on a off-site improvement plan in the set. We have building renderings in the set, floor plans, utility plan showing the proposed connections. We have, as I mentioned, off-site electrical plans, there's a lighting plan. The roof drainage will be connected to city infrastructure, which is shown on the roof drainage plan. And then we have the requisite detail pages. We received comments yesterday, and we've provided a response today, which, if it's appropriate, if you have no other questions in general, I'll go through those and provide our responses.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first comment is on Church Street. The doors for the transformer cannot open across city property. So the site plan shows a swinging gate, and
You should be licensed for.
okay, so we would do
You can
that.
add that to the licenses that you're already going for.
Okay, so it's okay to have the swing gate, and we just need a license.
Yeah.
Okay. Second one is to provide an
So-
easement plan showing the
They
easement.
can get it, I mean, yeah.
Sorry?
If there's another way to do it without having to get a license, it'd be
Yeah, I
preferred.
mean, this is part of a negotiated thing that
Yeah.
the Works Department worked on with Eversource for
Yep.
ad nauseum, really. So it's part of the electrical backbone for this part of the city, so.
Oh, understood.
The department's gonna support it, but understanding that the department doesn't give the license to city
Right,
council.
exactly, that's the only point I'm making.
Yeah, and in the response, we did say that we're showing a gate, and we understand that it would probably want to be shielded both for looks, for HCC, and also to
Absolutely.
keep people out of there. So
Yes.
the architect will be working on some various options. Maybe it can be something that doesn't swing, but either way, we'll take care of that.
Yep,
Okay.
great.
Second one is the provide an easement plan for the easement for the conduit connected to the transformer located on private property. So I would imagine there'll be an easement in that corner to Eversource to be able to provide, I don't know, there'd be particular conduit easements unless I'm missing something else.
No, the conduit's actually in the right of way, so that,
Right away, yep.
the transformer, yes.
Yep, so we'll
And,
provide that. And,
While we're right on that same little area of the plan, looks like we're showing the, pole box, the electrical manhole,
yep,
is where it is. Looks like it's on top of a city sewer line.
so, not
Unless
sure.
something's not quite drawn right,
Yeah,
but,
the GIS,
add that to that proposed 7x13 pull box note, final position to be approved by the Department of Public Works,
okay,
that'd be great.
thank you. There is a sewer shown on your GIS, but just kinda goes,
I think it's a stub that,
Yeah.
we put in when we were doing Court Street,
Mhm.
but not quite sure where the Stone Church's sewer is, maybe you remember? Cause I thought you worked on that project.
on the, church project connection or the Court Street project?
The
Neither.
Stone Church, do you remember where their sewer lateral comes out of the building?
I do not
So that might be.
chase that down, cause if
Right,
it
we
was
need to
probably for that,
find that out so that we make sure that we don't do something foolish.
okay? And we'll add to that note, we did put a note on there about the easement. If a restaurant is proposed, please show grease trap location on the plans. There is a grease trap shown interior, a basement grease trap.
How do you plan to get that pumped out? Is there like a hatch or something?
So there most likely would be a portal that you could stick the hose in.
Like at Jimmy's Jazz Club?
I think there's some other ones, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of them like that. Yep.
Okay. So it was 1,000 gallons, so that's good. Size.
Comment 4 is, include notes on the utilities plan to cut and cap existing water and sewer services. We added note 14 on utility plan C4. Next one, delete note 9 on utility plan, so we provided a strike through for that. Cut in a Y for sewer connection, include a clean out in the sidewalk for testing. That's on the State Street side, so we showed those items. Hopefully that's appropriate, how we laid that out for you. Number 7, roof drain connection, should be a sweep, not an angled return without a clean out. With a clean out, we removed the clean out and show a sweep. Court Street was recently paved, work in Court Street will require full mill and overlay for the extent of the work, and we added note 10 on sheet C3.
Add to that Church Street,
Church Street, yes, okay.
subsequent to the note. We
Yep.
paved more.
And then, number 9, the electrical in Court Street should be under the sidewalk north of Pleasant Street intersection. And we made that change, we also put it under the sidewalk south of that intersection.
Mhm.
It's under the sidewalk going down Court Street.
This plan that we're looking at is just not updated yet.
It is, it's the one that you have.
A little copy? I can't see.
Yes, going through the tip down.
You happy?
It was squeezed by the pole there.
Yeah. On your own.
With the side.
Yeah, but the water main was right where you were showing the conduit, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm making it.
Okay. Zach's happy. We're happy.
All right. Work with Eversource to move utility poles, PSNH 3/11 and PSNH 4/14 to maintain ADA compliant sidewalks and not interfere with proposed underground electric. The developer will work with Eversource for possible pole placements. think we talked a little bit about that, Dave, when we met with Eversource out there. There was
I
some-
suspect that's probably right.
there was something skipping around that we could do. And so we'll carry that forward as a condition or whatever is appropriate. And number 11 is move bollards protecting the gas meters out of the street. Install gas meter and alcove in the side of the building. So we request that we be allowed to ask for a license agreement. And I submitted today some photos of other locations. There is a 14 inches or so, there is property between the property line and the building. It's just not quite enough for the protection of the meters, so that those two bollards would not really feed into the right of way all that much, but we would actually,
We need to ask for a license for that too then.
add that to the license list.
Yep.
Thank you, that's the comments, so,
Imagine you're replacing the sidewalks on State Street side and Pleasant Street side.
yes. I think there's notes to that effect, there should be.
I
There's a
didn't go through the details, but there's somewhere on there that says build everything to city standards.
typically, yep, it's all details. There's a
Just
section
confirm
that's,
that that's there.
yep,
With the work in the right of way, that would need a third-party oversight.
Yes. Your note says minimum slope 1/4 inch and 12. That actually is the maximum slope allowed. You can update
brick
it.
sidewalk detail?
Yeah, can you update your details so it's legal?
Yep.
Okay.
No flat sidewalks allowed.
No
No
overly
flat
pitched
sidewalk,
sidewalks
You know,
allowed.
right. Minimum 2% cross slope max.
The rest of it looks okay, John. Using 6-inch granite curb or you're replacing the existing? Question.
Typically, we have a note, there's a construction note above it that says existing granite curb disturbed by construction shall be reused.
And are you adding any light poles or are you resetting the light poles that are there that they'll have to come down?
Nothing citywide, no, we're not touching any of that, kiosk locations, striping or poles. We're adding site
No.
lighting that will have some spill, which I think is a benefit.
Why don't we just add a note to the plan saying if any street lighting is necessary for construction, that it gets replaced by the contractor? Or reconstructed by the contractor as appropriate? Because you're gonna need SOE in here, and that's gonna wipe out the sidewalk.
So the street lighting shall be preserved during construction or replaced as needed.
Or reconstructed as needed. And approved by the Public Works Department. And all your grades on the sidewalk are showing less than 1/4 inch per foot?
Yes, I went 1%, so I took the,
Awesome, good job.
or I might have gone 1.5. I didn't go more than 1.5, that's for sure.
Okay. Good. And it's a little light pole.
John, for your parking calculation, can you just add in the guest parking
That's
requirement? I mean, you meet it, you'll need 4, so you have it, you have 17.
Yes,
Just,
thank you.
you know,
Yeah, it made it into my letter, but not on the plan
Okay.
note. Yeah, thank you. It's actually 17, where 17 is
Right.
required, yeah.
Eric, do you have any comments or?
My comments are mostly on the parking, how the automatic parking works. Yeah, the driver drives the car into the empty stall, or and then there's room to get out, and maneuver, walk alongside there?
Correct.
Yes.
Just looks really tight. Looks like as long as there aren't any cars over 17 feet long, it'll work. But I'm just wondering about when the driver has to drive into the empty stall, right? And then get out of the car, open their door and get out.
If you go to the view the other way, yeah, keep going, it shows the system. It's kind of like a parking spot, you know. You have a parking stripe and then there's a little extra space because the car isn't right tight to the stripe. You know, it's kind of like it doesn't have a fence barrier, so it's just like parking in a parking lot in a way.
As long as the door can clear. Is it like a little curbing there on the side?
Yes, the door will swing over that, that beam that's part of the pallet. We're actually looking at a system that has an even lower pallet, beam there, but we haven't selected a final manufacturer yet. All of them allow the door to swing over into the adjacent space.
Uh-huh. And there's no way, a person can't fall in between the two stalls or anything?
Correct.
They can pull into any of those, or is
They get assigned.
so there's not like, because one of them that was described was almost like, you pull in, say, one space. Everybody always pull in that space, then it'll just move.
Right, like the middle one is always empty.
Right, but that's not this,
Oh,
right?
you'd pull into any one of the three that are at the grade level, and then the cars would shuffle around. The pallets are assigned, so your pallet will come down to whatever the empty spot is on the drive-in grade, and then you drive in. But that may end up at any one of those three positions at the grade level.
So,
We had originally hoped
so
that we
each
could be able
Up
to
and down.
each spot holds 2 cars or 3 cars?
Three.
Except there's one spot that's always open. So in a 9 pallet array, there's 8 parking spaces. Because there's one spot that's always open that allows you to shuffle.
So
into.
the cars can move side to side as
Yes.
well,
Right.
as well as up and down.
Yeah. No, originally we had hoped perhaps that we could always make the center stall the one that you drove into, just because it made the turning movements easier. But the manufacturers are saying we need to make all 3 of those at-grade spaces available for the car to come in order to be able to shuffle them around. Otherwise, we'd need 2 open spaces.
Do you think these turning templates in there are realistic?
The consultant said that she used LOS A templates, which are most conservative to allow for some margin of error. Her explanation was that that would be adequate for somebody who's not familiar with the space, and as you get more and more familiar with the space, they would typically start to tighten those down, but to be conservative, she used the LOS A turning templates.
There's some looks like 4-point turns in there.
There are some, yep. And the 2 spaces that are closest to the interior wall with the Louis building did not work well for what they call their design, the AASHTO passenger design vehicle. So they looked at them both with the AASHTO vehicle and what Walker Consultants uses their 85th percentile vehicle that would represent 85% of the cars that are on the road in America today. She said the 85th percentile car worked well, but the AASHTO P vehicle was a little bit tight trying to get into those 2 spaces. Matter of fact, they had done a study that said you could back into those spaces fine, but obviously that doesn't work with the city ordinance that you can't back in off of Church Street. So we're showing those what would be 6 spaces would be for a 85th percentile vehicle.
It seems unlikely to me that people won't be backing out onto Church Street as opposed to doing the 4-point turn. And the guest parking is part of this too?
The calculation is such that the DOD has a 4-space reduction there's 4 guest spaces are required, so I think the guests will be parking in the spaces that are available in the street network, essentially. That's what that means.
You need to have a key fob or something to operate this, right?
There's actually, I believe there's a control pad that you'd use, a computer interface pad. We had talked about the possibility of being able to do it with your phone or a key fob or something like that. And the explanation is you probably don't want to do that because you don't want that system moving if there's not somebody in there to have their eyes on the system to make sure everybody's safe. So the recommendation is that you actually have at least as you're retrieving your car, that there would be a computer interface monitor.
Are there safeties built in so that if there's somebody in the actual parking space that can't move? I've seen some videos where some companies have that. Is that
Detection system, I'll
Yeah.
confirm, but I would think it would, I'll confirm that. Similar to a garage door or whatever, something that would detect that there's something underneath it and not move.
Yeah,
as
just
instructed.
more of the whole area, make sure that.
Yeah, you wanna make sure someone's gotten out of their car, out of the space before the next person tries to maneuver things around.
Right.
Otherwise, that person gets caught up inside there. No. It's all very tight, has
Yes.
multi-point turns.
A car come in and out at the same time, would this require a similar alarm system of somebody coming out to make sure nobody pulls in and crashes into them?
At the overhead door at the overhead door itself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Only 2 cars get into an accident under a building.
Well, so I drive on the street almost every day. Those 2 parking spaces along the building.
One and four.
No, the ones that are outside, yeah, they get restriped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I haven't really noticed that they're restricted, maybe they made them bigger, but oftentimes vehicles are outside the stripes on those. Because they're right up against the building, they have to open the door. It just seems really tight.
I believe they get restriped pretty close to where they were before the street was repaved.
Yeah, it's probably,
Looking at where
Probably
they are
the
now
same.
and where they were.
They got restriped.
Somebody did,
Somebody did?
it's been paved.
striped.
Yeah, they're straight. The parking department. Somebody
Cause I didn't think, previously they weren't metered, but now they are.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, it explains it, yeah. They put up the sign, it's making money.
But driving through there, like I say, more often than not, when there's 2 cars parked there, at least one of them is over that white line into the street, based on giving them room to get out the door.
Yeah, but you're still able to drive by even.
You are, but the turning template to get in there is very close to that space.
Is there any opportunity to slide these street spaces closer to State Street, or is that?
You've got the turn coming in, but if you reverse the flow, then you could.
Don't cause trouble.
Okay.
Open the public comment. Is there no other comments? Anyone here or on Zoom wishing to make any comments? Go ahead, Barbara. You're on mute.
Hi, this is Barbara Zenny and Matthew Beebe from Working Stiff Properties, 94 Pleasant Street. We're direct abutters.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have questions about the transformer and the transformer location. I've tried to do some background work to find out about the possible effects of vibration and/or sound that would affect our property, which is immediately adjacent to that wall. And we've not been able to get any information from local electrical inspectors or directly from Eversource themselves, because I don't know that it's been decided exactly what size that transformer has to be. But I think it's important to note that with all of the footprint on this property, that seems to be right up against the abutter, which isn't great for us, given some of the other things that have been permitted on this site that also affect our property. So I'm wondering if there could be a discussion about whether or not that transformer could be moved, or at least get some information to us that would assure us that it's not going to affect any tenants or the use of our property.
And we're talking about decibel level, vibrations, and to add here, the last TAC work session, I appreciated that it was brought up about the thickness of the wall and the facing of the wall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're going to demolish the entire cinder block section now, but I'd like clarification on that. But if we could, we would really appreciate some communication with developer. We've had none, and we've reached out several times. We just would really appreciate some neighborliness on that. We just have to come to meetings and basically get turned down time after time. So we really like to work with not just the land use boards, but also the developer. We really, really would appreciate some communication. Would like to know how that transformer area is going to be built out so that it reduces noise and vibration, so it doesn't affect our enjoyment and use of, and our tenants' use of the property.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, or are you all set?
I think we're good.
Thank you. All right, we'll close the public comment portion. You don't have any comments on that about or do you know anything about the potential noise or vibration of these transformers?
I did some online looking, and it varies, so we really probably should get specifics from Eversource, so we can reach out and try to do that. We are talking about a rather thick masonry wall there. My understanding is that there's also a wall built on the inside of the adjacent property, so we've got the thickness of the masonry wall plus whatever their interior wall is to help buffer the sound in there. The construction of that wall is in question as to whether or not the existing block wall is coming down or not. That's one of the discussions we need to have with the abutters as to how that can be constructed on that zero property line. We had originally shown it in the HDC plan as being replaced with brick. If that can't be worked out logistically, we have an alternative plan that would retain at least a portion of that and then build up above that. But our intention is whatever that wall gets replaced with, it will be a thick masonry structure to provide both fire separation and sound separation.
I don't know about vibration of transformers.
No.
I mean, I think they make a humming noise, but I don't know that they vibrate.
What?
We'll find out.
What I found from my online research is that the dB level is about 65, which is approximately the level of conversation that we're having right now. So that doesn't take into account the background noise of the streets or anything like that. But until we have a definitive answer, I don't want to go much further with that.
All right, thank you. Other comments anyone has?
Sure. Comment on first floor commercial property, the larger one. I don't know if that's going to require 2 exits, but if it does, the 2 that are shown are not remote.
For the corner pack, you talk about this?
The corner, yeah. Yeah, that one.
But if that does end up being one tenant space, it would probably depend upon the use of the space, I guess, for travel distance. The other thing that we're looking at is the potential of this space could be connected with the old Louis Restaurant space in the 84, right there where Peter's got his,
Yep.
Yeah, connecting in through there, so then we would have separation of exits there. We do have the opportunity to have another exit to that stair that goes down into the basement. exit stair also, I mean, as an exit doorway.
Yeah, it would have to be addressed at builder permit time, but if you are planning on needing to exit that space, know that those two will not be enough.
Appreciate it, keep it in mind.
Far enough apart.
How we feeling? Is there major things you need to see again, or stuff that you can review prior to planning board?
We brought up a bunch of comments today, most of which are addressed in this set, but not everything. So, I think it's close enough that I'm okay with moving this on. What do you feel?
Yeah, we could review the minor changes.
What did you want to review still? Should we get
Those poles.
whole location?
That would be a note, cause it'd take a while to work that out.
The note about the pole box, the electrical manhole, it's not a pole box, it's a manhole.
Making sure the sewer isn't going through that.
Making sure there's notes on there
Plugs.
about the electrical system, making sure the sidewalk cross-section note gets fixed. Little things, they're just little things.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we capture them, so we know what
Yep.
we're looking for before it goes to planning.
And I guess the second comment would be to address the neighbor's concern about the vibration and noise, and making sure that there's some kind of coordination and that gets vetted to make sure that the building alcove is appropriately designed.
Whatever licenses you might need
We're gonna need
That would be a condition of approval.
as part of the planning board, but just so it's clear to the planning board what you're asking for.
Yeah, we'll add the licenses, yep. Are we gonna need a SIMA fee as well?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I do wanna make sure that the third-party oversight of right-of-way improvements.
It's actually warranted, yes.
Yes.
So they can manage all those things and get DPW to sign off that they've got it, what they need, then I'd recommend approval to the planning board after that step.
For a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That was a snowy day. Have a good one.
All right, next up, we have the request of Ralph 1912 LLC owner for property located at 175 Fleet Street, requesting site plan review approval for the addition of 2 new food service structures with associated site improvements. Said property is located on map 117, lot 8, lies within the Code 5 and historic districts.
Dave.
More stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Technical Advisory Committee, John Shaggy, Planning Board. Representing Ralph 1912 LLC. With me today is Mark McNabb, owner, developer, owner, and Tracy Kozak from Cove Architecture Project Architect. And the project is the addition of some food court, food trucks at the Gillies site at 175 Fleet Street. The plan set includes a cover sheet, existing condition plan with survey information. The site plan is a full landscaping and lighting plan,
some architectural plans, some grading and utility work. And also included in this project is some off-site work on Newbury Way to prep that and lower the grade. So we need to lower the grade in order to align with the work that's being done here at this site. And then there's the typical detail sheets. We did attend a workshop meeting and hopefully addressed those comments. But we did get comments yesterday, and if it's appropriate, I'll go through those comments and how we've addressed them in these plans that you have before you.
While John does that, I'd like to hand out some updated renderings. Take one, pass it along.
So the first comment was the 5% open space must meet definition of open space, cannot be in planters, and cannot be on city property. So I think the movable planters is what was meant by they can't be in planters. So if you look at the site plan sheet, we added a dimension, the landscape area in the northeast along the parking garage. It is 5 feet on the property, and it goes all the way to the garage, so it's a little wider, but we're expanding it so it's 5 feet wide on property. And then the note says redo landscaping area 245 square feet on site. And then over along the Fleet Street right away, there's a area in front of the Gillies Caboose, which is has a round point, and that is labeled proposed landscape area 70 square feet. Those two are shown in the calculation in the top left, the open space calc, 70 square feet and 245 square feet. The 315 square feet is 7.8%, so that meets the 5%. We didn't count the movable planters or any of the other landscaping. The next comment was the garbage totes should be removed from city property. A solution for trash must be obtained prior to planning board approval. So the applicant is requesting a license agreement from the city to use the portion of the property to place the totes. This request is supported by the need to remove an existing dumpster located in Newbury Way, thereby allowing the pedestrian walk-through in the newly reconfigured Newbury Way. And I've attached the email sent by Mr. McNabb to the city manager to begin that process. So hopefully this group would support that idea of the group trash facility at this location. Third comment is to provide a green building statement. That's been added to the portal and included herein. Fourth, utility note 9 must be removed. Sheet C 202, we've put a strike through that note. Comment 5, the 2 kiosks will need to be individually licensed for health department requirements. Understood. We've added note 15 to sheet 201 site plan, and that we would assume that would be a condition of approval. 6, any fencing is required by the liquor commission or used to divide the site is required to go to the HDC. We understand that. We've added note 16 to sheet 201. We would ask that be a condition of approval carrying forward. Bathrooms cannot be connected to the grease trap. Show separate sewer line that does not route through the grease trap. Sheet 202 has been revised to show a separate bathroom sewer connection. 8, do not install brick sidewalks. Fleet Street project is pending and will need to cut through and replace the sidewalk. So we've revised the plans to show bituminous sidewalk and on sheet 201, and the detail on sheet 502 has been revised. So in the handout material I did send to you, one of the comments from the workshop had to do with the food trucks being permanent structures and setbacks there too. So not able, I'm sorry, food kiosks?
Structures.
Food, yeah, okay. Food structures? I'm sorry. All right, yes, kiosks labeled here on the next sheet in your
They
plan.
won't have tires.
They won't have tires. They'll be permanently in one place. So, in order to get better separation, kiosk number 2 is proposed to be moved south. So if you look at sheet 201 site plan that's up on the screen, we're gonna sort of move that south and move the wall over and put the tables that were in that space on the other side. So it is a minor change. That's been submitted to HDC along with the revised renderings, I think, that Tracy passed out. We would ask that if you want to see us again, so be it, but it's a change that we think can be approved internally with revision to the plan. So leave that up to you.
Yeah, the two items, we just moved the tables and that so that we keep 10 feet from Gillies, so we don't have any issues with fire separation between those structures. And we're perfectly comfortable having it a condition or a license agreement to utilize that property from the city to have totes. We would expect that's a condition.
All right, thank you. Any comments, questions from TAC members?
Something I should have caught before along with the sewer service, we would need the existing to be cut and capped. They're, establishing the whole new one, so the existing,
Yeah, I see.
cut and capped in the street there.
Yeah, that existing, from what we can tell, came at a really weird angle.
Yeah, it was just replaced a couple years ago. The existing water service for Gillies is being used for the other two structures as well.
That's correct.
And where are you grabbing power, Mark?
Excuse me?
Where are you grabbing power for all this?
Well, the existing power is adequate for what we're doing. As you are aware, the whole area is eventually going to
Yeah.
have transformers and be upgraded, but currently, right now, those two little kiosks, our power's fine.
We were showing connecting from the building, so.
Okay, so you're using the existing electrical service off of Gillies.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And then are you still showing transformers in the back corner like you were last
We are,
time?
Dave. That's a placeholder to make, to represent, we're cooperating with city and Eversource and will allow a transformer on our property.
That's that spot, Plan East, right there?
Yep, that's
That's what
correct.
that's intended?
That's correct.
Is that enough room for two transformers there?
If it's not, we can make it. It's, we have not seen any further from Eversource from the meeting we had, whatever, a year ago. But we own all.
I'm sure we'll hear from them as soon as you start moving.
Yeah, exactly. We own all the land on both sides, so we obviously have flexibility to allow that to move.
Do you know that they want to put two there, or you can reach out to them?
We will likely need different voltages, that's the reason.
Yeah.
You're still allowing single phase, or is it?
I don't think Eversource has really come around to the full, pulling off the full Monty of requiring everybody to go to 120, 208. I don't think they're there yet. I think we're close, but I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, the last I heard about Bearing down Fleet Street, maybe going underground with transformers as a first program. I'm not sure where they are with that whole thing.
So they're waiting for us to do the utility work underneath the street. Now that the Vaughn Wall's done, we're about to move into Congress Street, as you know, and then this part of the job would be the next phase. So we're looking at construction in 27.
I was thinking 27, 28.
Well, the good thing about
It's fully funded at this point and at 80% design, so we're just about ready.
Well, the good thing about all this is we're aware of what's going on there, and that's why we're representing a binder course through that whole area
making the grades work all the way from Gillies through Newberry Way, so that at any point in time, we can rip up what we need to rip up for subterranean.
So let's just talk about interim. So is this part of this, building the Newbury Way connector all the way through?
It is.
So there's no interim plan where there's gonna be a set of steps behind Gillies to
There's
get
not.
up to the grade because we didn't go all the way?
There's not.
You didn't go all the way? Okay.
There's not. We feel,
So part of this is actually the foundation, supports for the garage and all the other
all the
things
undermining,
that are gonna get
whatever
triggered.
we find at that point will be, Newberry Way is so vital to all these parcels. Newberry Way really needs to be dropped first with this. So in that process would be all the notes when we uncover bottom of foundations we have to design before we undermine.
We put the profile in the full set. The Newbury profile.
Thank you.
Made a minor adjustment.
My apologies, I've been a little busy outside.
No worries. Well, I just wanted to point out, we did make a minor adjustment to that profile.
What?
Showing you, we just made a minor adjustment. Instead of a straight line, we needed to sort of wiggle it a little and meet some door elevations of the Newbury building. A little bit of movement, But again, it's all predicated on the work that needs to be done. It is somewhat exploratory, but also to prep.
Where that red line is tying into the original grade, where is that on the backside of the project? Is that at the entrance to the garage? Is that where that is?
On the left side or the right side?
Looking at your red line.
Yep. Which side? The left side or
Right
the
side.
the right side ties,
Where's that?
ties in right before the entrance to the 1/15 Congress garage in the back, so it's halfway up.
So you're creating a low spot? Looks like you're creating a low spot. Right, you're coming
Yeah,
up
we
at
need some
5%,
drainage there. Yeah, we need some.
Down at
drainage.
1%.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we needed to match that, so yeah, we'll look at the drainage there. Yeah,
Okay,
good
so
point.
you might end up creating do you have an idea which way you're gonna send that drainage?
We were running it to Fleet Street, I believe, because you're gonna be putting new drainage at Fleet Street. So in the full
Okay.
design,
Yeah, and I thought we had talked about putting in some drainage underneath that Newbury Way.
Yeah. yeah, it's in,
Okay.
this doesn't
I
show.
just wanna make sure you're thinking about things.
Yes,
That's all.
thank you.
Okay, good.
Thanks for the low point. But I don't show what the design is, because this is just creating the excavation and
Just the macro
just the
getting down
macro,
there.
getting it down there, and then Mark's gonna
Okay,
pave
so
it.
there will need to be some sort of agreement with, I would imagine, the legal department regarding the foundations for the parking garage, Shanti? Right, this is, part of this is gonna be the actual excavation next to the garage. What will we need legally to,
If they're gonna be encroaching on city property?
you need a whole different.
No, we're not encroaching,
Not
it's just
necessarily, but.
undermining.
Oh, yeah.
So it would
you need
just.
a shoring plan.
It's showing a condition, no undermining of any existing structure shall occur.
Shoring
in-
plan, right?
Shoring plan.
Stamped by structural engineer showing that whatever method they're gonna use, ensure there'll be no movement or,
Okay, so part of this approval is gonna be the shoring plan?
I mean, that's what
It
you
needs
would
to be
want. if
approved
you're
by the
gonna be-
city, right? And then there'll be an iterative process where we work through how to do that.
Right, but we don't know, it's at the very bottom, we don't know, when we start knocking down Haven Court, we would then bring out what we find.
Sure.
Where we would then have a shoring plan, but we wouldn't do it to start, because we're solid ledge. We're just gonna be removing a hill of ledge. And we'll be down maybe 2 feet lower, 3 feet lower, till we get there and see exactly what we got. Because, it's coming down 14 feet at the top. So I would propose that the condition would be no undermining of the structures, and when a shoring plan would be presented before any works proceeded, that would undermine or affect the structures.
How are you moving the ledge?
We'll probably most likely have relief. We won't blast.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have relief drilling from main drilling and blasting, and Severino will be doing the work, so it'll be a combination of mechanically removing it all.
And they'll do a ledge removal survey, I would imagine.
Already done that. We know we hit ledge in 5 feet.
I'm meaning for the adjacent properties to ensure, or just to make sure that document what's happening right now versus the condition of the buildings after.
We know we're all ledge. We've done test borings through that whole area, and after 5 feet, we're down to ledge. So, all these buildings on the side, my building, JJ Newberry, the city parking garage, is all on ledge. So we'll start removing ledge. We can't quite determine exactly where the High Hanover garage stops and where our foundation stops. We know we're way down there, because the whole kitchen to Thirsty Moose is below Newberry Way elevation. So we know that we're probably undermined by 2 feet, but we may stop there. The key on Newberry Way, whichever building I went first on, JJ Newberry, Gillies, or One Congress, the story building in the parking lot, triggers knocking Newberry Way down to at least a workable elevation to start unraveling that whole area and be able to get utilities in that go through, which will be years of utilities between that whole block. We just don't want to be cutting down, obviously, 15 feet, 18 feet to put utility lines. So that's why Newberry Way kind of gets triggered with whatever goes first, And it's for us at this point, it's not important to get all the way down. It's important to get 3/4 of the way down right now to allow the transition from Fleet Street and Gillies and all that to work. Everything works better if we can knock any elevation out of Newberry Way.
So I'm comfortable with no line of finding of facilities without
a shoring
an approved shoring plan.
That makes sense. Agreed.
Okay. That's a condition.
That be tied into like a CMMP, or that's its own separate?
It's part of the approval. We'll also need a CMMP, of course. Don't think we need a third-party inspector on this. The utility work in the street is minimal, and we're about to rebuild everything anyway, so I'm not really concerned about that.
But we need the city license on the recycling.
But we definitely need a license on the recycling.
Is there anything else in the city right away? Just that?
No, we own everything else but that little strip.
I think the bike racks might be on city property.
Where are the bike racks?
They're in front of the
sure.
garage.
Yeah.
And then any of this landscaping, right?
Yeah.
So just,
That whole strip,
That encroachment of landscaping, bike racks, and trash.
just that strip.
For anybody who's not aware of the past history, though, we were getting somewhere on actually taking over part of the High Hanover garage for our trash. So I believe the cooperation will be there for the license agreement to totes and that use in that area.
On the detail, Dave, because you're gonna be redoing the street, can we not do granite curb for the temporary sidewalk? How do you wanna do that? I showed the curb on that detail, but I'm thinking, can we just do like a bituminous?
Yes.
Thanks.
We'll take care of it when we go through.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, speaking of details, I had another on that grease trap. As long as all of the 3 entrances come in onto
Same end.
the same chamber.
Yep.
And you have the correct baffling to come down, inlet at 12 inches above bottom. Take our typical grease trap inlet and then just make sure, modify it to have the 2 entrances that I see here.
All the entrances going in the same.
Yeah, all the
chamber.
entrances coming into the same chamber.
Entrance chamber.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be cooking in the kiosk?
Oh, yeah.
Will there be, like a vent hood?
Oh, yeah. Minor, though, just very minimal.
I don't see where that is on that.
But they're not designed yet. Right now, we just are representing a kiosk with, which will be takeout food, but there'll be some grill or some warming up of something that they'll all have to be designed. without the wheels, essentially, they're a food truck. You know, meaning that people don't come in them.
Yeah.
They're all self-contained inside. They're all designed and built to health standards. So,
But maybe.
Here's the big question, Pat, do you need a fire hydrant?
No.
No, you good? It's the nearest hydrant's a ways.
I mean, I'm just assuming that we have enough hydrants downtown, but I'll look.
Is that gonna be, are they gonna be added hydrants in the fleet project?
There's nowhere to put them,
Nowhere to put them.
hence the question.
hence, there shouldn't have been a question.
Maybe we give them one bike rack and we put in a fire hydrant.
Probably would fit there, even with the bike racks. Push it over a little bit.
I know this is your last meeting, I don't wanna make it too difficult on you.
No, why are you doing this to me? I gotta find it on the map.
Patrick's last meeting?
Yes?
I think there's a workshop next week. I'm gonna try and bail on that.
I would.
There's enough, I heard there's enough hydrants.
It's probably what's the worst that can happen?
Oh, the internet's out, I can't see the connection.
Seeing any hydrants on Fleet Street?
You'll have more times to add a hydrant between JJ Newberry
Here's your
and.
hint.
So we've got one
There's
way
one
down
across the
on
street,
High
across from Fleet Street.
Oh, there it is.
And there's one in front of 55 Congress, which is actually moving slightly away from Fleet Street. But will still be there, but 10 feet further away.
Here and here. Yeah, that's not horrible.
Love it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good answer.
Then you guys will remove the food truck reference here and change it
Yeah.
to kiosk for the planning board, just so
Yeah, I
that.
think kiosk or
You don't want- you don't
takeout
want-
restaurant, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
they're just,
We're clearly representing their full-time structures. The biggest thing on that isn't the food, it's the insulating and making it a structure.
Sure.
So, they will not be food trucks, they will be structures. Which actually works fine for us.
Kiosk is acceptable?
Kiosk is.
kiosk or
Kiosk.
takeout restaurant. I mean, that term goes with the zoning, but say takeout kiosk or.
I think that,
Takeout restaurant is in the zoning, but not kiosk.
okay. You know, food truck was an allowed use.
Right, but,
Takeout kiosk is
So what is
an
that?
allowed use, right?
oh, takeout kiosk is.
I mean, kiosk isn't in there, but we just call it a takeout
Takeout
restaurant.
restaurant.
Exactly.
There's no room to put one.
The 10 feet was because it was a food truck. That
Yeah,
was-
but if we get to 10 feet, then we don't have to rate, was it 10 feet that we don't have to rate windows and
They
doors?
have to worry about openings.
Yeah, and I'd rather not put ceramic windows in and, by keeping 10 feet.
Separation's better, that's.
You're also talking about the discharge from the hood, if that's going out the side of the building, that has to have 10-foot clearance in front of it.
Would go out the top.
Or about the top, right? Yeah.
But either way, 10 feet's better than 5. We found that making a courtyard there with the seating inside is actually a better design. So it was better to move the kiosk out.
All right, are there any public comments on this application, either here or on Zoom? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. Eric, do you have something, or you just?
No, I was only just questioning about the totes, the trash. They'll be brought out one at a time. It looked like they would get too big as how they're shown to put them all out there at once.
That's correct. They would never all need at once. This is really similar to 60 Penn Hollow that we do. We have twice as many, and then we move out 2 or 3 as we need it for pickup. So I moved out with electric hand carts. I think the hotel does the same thing across the street, but it's worked really well at 60 Penn Hollow for 2 years. That's how we do it there.
All right, further discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion to move this on with the conditions that we already talked about.
Second that.
Did you second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
You heard it. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, last item, the request of John Galt LLC, owner for property located at 14 Market Square, requesting a conditional use permit from section 10.112.14 to allow 4 parking spaces where 8 are required. Property is on assessment map 107, lot 29, and lies within the Character District 5 and Historic District. And so they're just before us because we have to review the parking demand analysis. So, would anyone like to present? Tracy, John?
I guess I can. So we submitted, thank you, John Shagnon from Haley Ward with me as the project proponent, and John Galt, LLC, Mark McNabb, and project architect Tracy Kozak. We're applying for a conditional use permit parking for the change of use from office to apartments at 14 Market Square. And
Just a little bit of history of that. We just got approved. The conversion's already been made out of office. This project's been approved for 4 apartments on the 2nd floor and 1 co-living unit on the 3rd floor.
Which building is this?
This
For
is
those
the
of us that don't know the
Napolitana,
address.
the old Napolitana right in Market Square. The old Breaking the Grounds.
Okay.
Right in the corner of, right in Market Square. So it is no longer office. We couldn't really live with the conditions on the co-living the planning board put on the 3rd floor. So we're coming back, instead of a co-living on the 3rd floor, 3 apartments. So that's really why we're here, is the parking. When we go to that, the co-living wasn't required to have any parking by the ordinances, but apartments are all required to have the 1. So by making that top floor 3 apartments instead of 1 co-living unit, we're short on parking and need a parking CUP.
There is parking spaces for this somewhere?
No, we're built on the lot line. We have no parking. Can't produce parking.
Okay.
We have nothing.
so we did a parking demand showing the small office building calculation would require 17 parking spaces, and the apartment multifamily housing low-rise would require 9 parking spaces. So this change in use is a reduction of 8, reduced parking demand, 8 spaces. So that's what was presented in here. And again, we're asking for 0 spaces. 0 spaces are being provided. There was one comment provided through the staff, which was accounting for the need for bicycle parking, which is required with dwelling units. And I don't know, Tracy, if you want to.
Well, that would be the only place we can do it, and we can do it, is our common basement off of Daniel Street. I also own all the property around there. I mean, in terms of Brick Market, and my bike rack's there, and I could add them over there too if you wanted off-site. But here, the only place we could do that would be in the basement off our Daniel Street entrance.
Is there room in the basement?
There is. It's actually a full basement. It's actually it's a good basement.
Yeah, the access to this is like the storefront access on Market Street, and then you just go up to the residential. So there is no
Daniel Street,
first floor residential space to put a bike rack or bikes.
There's nothing outside to do it. It's part of the same, I can't miss the opportunity because everyone's technical here. It's part of the same 2015 changes in zoning downtown that carved out all kinds of things that so many buildings can't comply with. When more than 50% of the buildings are built on the lot line, and you mandate parking stalls for bikes, it's a built-in hardship on it. It's the same with parking. We come here and grovel for parking spaces, and 60% of the buildings are built on the lot line and 90% don't comply with parking. So, but I think the city just likes to spend the time on these boards to talk about it. So here we are. But downtown can't
Bad
provide
things
parking.
happened back then.
It can't provide parking. Talk all day long about it, but, so I wish I had a magical pill to say, hey, but these upper floors of these older buildings like this, I'm keeping all my office space downtown and not converting it to residential. These old buildings, though, just never had a demand on the upper floors. They've essentially been vacant for years and years and years on office space. It's very similar to 111 State Street that we converted to 7 apartments upstairs. Same thing I did with Rosa. You know, they were just empty. Nobody wants to rent them for office. So really the only use for these 2 upper floors in this building is a residential use. And co-living is a good zone. Nobody has done it yet. We thought we had a pretty flexible zoning where the planning board could waive anything, which is unlike any other part of zoning. Planning board could waive anything in co-living. Unfortunately, they're taking certain positions where you can't waive a bunch of stuff or won't. And so it just had a condition here that I just can't make it work for co-living on the top floor.
Showing a reduction from what is possible, so
And they-
I'm happy with it.
And Eric, do you have any comments on the demand analysis?
No, it looks good because it's actual parking demand analysis, not a parking requirement analysis. So I am happy. It's a demand analysis. It's good. It
Yeah.
shows that demand has gone down.
And that's all, we don't make a recommendation, we just need to see it.
Yeah.
You did what you were asked.
And we can submit for planning board this month, I believe. This is a step in the way. I think it was, did you already sign? I think it was last week,
That-
was the deadline.
The deadline was last week.
I thought I did it at the same time. Maybe not. I thought I did because I addressed the letter to the agenda go out already?
Do we make a motion on this here?
I think we just find that it's acceptable.
Okay.
You making that motion?
I'm making that motion.
I'll second it.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So can you check if you did? Yeah. Peter, can you just check with John, see if that?
Appreciate that.
I don't know where that 10-foot. Mark, I don't know where that 10-foot came off. That's last meeting, if anybody. Food truck, right, but for structure.